Hi, everybody. Michael Barris here again. Welcome to part 4 of our series on speaking for career growth. And today we're dealing with an important topic, dealing with anxiety and confidence issues. And again, as usual, we're applying one of the 7 principles from my book, How to Become a Super Speaker, the 7 principles for speaking with confidence and connecting with audiences, to helping you to advance in your career. Now, when we started out, we looked at prioritizing delivery over content. Then we moved on to putting on a show. And last week, we looked at releasing personality. So, the topic today of dealing with anxiety and confidence gives you a chance to apply all the things that we've talked about to this point to help you to become a more confident leader. I'm fully aware, and I've been in the situation where, as a new leader, you may have been used to talking to the people in your department in their language, in their world. And then when you move into a leadership role, you suddenly now need to change your language because you're dealing with different people and maybe with people who are not technical experts. And you suddenly find that your confidence is not quite what you expected it would be. In fact, you may feel that you were woefully underprepared for taking on the mantle of responsibility of leadership. Well, I've got a system for you that will help you to deal with these things, to find your own inherent power, as it were. Because a lot of this is just dealing with self-doubt that weighs on you and prevents you from finding your voice and connecting with it. You will find your confidence lacking in the situation, perhaps, where you're in your new job and for the first time, you may be dealing with an employee who hasn't been pushed very hard for a long time. Now, I'm not urging you to be mean or to be unreasonably aggressive or anything like that, but I'm simply saying if you want to get someone to raise their output or to do higher quality work, to go beyond just being barely acceptable, you find that you need confidence just to talk to an employee like that to make them see why it's important to preserve the overall mission and to do what's right for the operation, to try to work harder or more effectively, or to try to raise their own quality output. But if you feel that you're not worthy of showing that kind of confidence yourself, it's going to be very difficult for you to inspire anyone to raise their own productivity and to be more effective and to help the mission in a greater way. So today we're going to help you because if you have that kind of a confidence problem, chances are it's going to affect your decision-making ability as well. And if you're afraid to make decisions, well, then you may hold off on keeping the action happening that is important to help the company achieve its business success mission. You could actually wind up becoming a bottleneck to communication if you're afraid to make the decision, to take on a tough call. You might actually wind up becoming worse than no leader at all. So these are some of the things that we're going to look at today, because let's face it, if you're not confident to make decisions, you can wind up hurting the company or the organization in many ways, ranging from the product quality to the user experience to sales and eventually to the bottom line. That's if you're a for-profit organization. And even if you're not a for-profit organization, you're going to put your ability to achieve your mission in greater jeopardy if you can't find your voice. So we're going to explore a number of ways to deal with making decisions effectively and to speak like a leader. Now, before I go any farther, I want to encourage you to go to the link at the bottom of the comments on LinkedIn, and you'll see that there's a tool being advertised that will help you learn the secret of making any audience take action. This is certainly a value to any leader. It's a framework that's used by some of the world's greatest speakers to engage audiences and to make thousands and thousands of dollars, or just to help to get the audience to buy into the idea, the service, or the personality they're trying to reach out with. So that's for you. It's a little thank you for me for having you tune in today. And to LinkedIn user, you're not identified or know who you are, but I'm glad you say you're not afraid of using your voice and you're always going for your goals and growing. But thanks for checking in today. All right, so let's get started here. Here's the reality. Let's do a reality check here. You often will see people advertising on LinkedIn or in books or in programs, fearless speaking. And the fact is, you really can't banish fear. Human beings are wired to feel fear to avoid what's any perceived threat to their own security, no matter what. If you're in a horror movie and someone jumps out of the bushes in the dark at you, you're going to go, you can't help it. It's just the way we're wired. It's a survival mechanism. But the good news is you can learn to function and speak effectively even as you're feeling the fear. And that's what we're going to talk about here today. So the way to deal with that is to follow this little mindset hack, if you will, which is don't try to fight the fear. Just let it in. I see we're joined by Gary Laney, the noted author and leadership expert himself. Good to see you, Gary. Thanks for being with us today. My way of dealing with it is that when I'm feeling dread before I have to speak in front of the audience, and it's something I prepare for now. I'm going to let it come in because, as I'm going to point out in a minute here, it helps me to be a more effective speaker. So I don't fight the fear. I just let it come in and I say something like, hello, fear. Well, you and I are kind of old friends by now. We've known each other a long time. Might as well come in and sit down and make yourself at home. And while you're doing that, you can do what you do. And I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my resources to be so well prepared that if I find myself feeling I'm suddenly in an unfamiliar situation as a speaker, I'll be able to fall back on my landmarks, creating keywords for myself that will let me track where I am and to talk more naturally about the subject. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Just taking a few little keywords and carving them out of the talk that will help me to feel more excited about what I'm speaking about so that you can feel excited about it. Doing the amount of practice I need, using the video and audio tools I have on my phone or my laptop to record myself and to look at it sensibly and realistically. What do I need to fix? How's my eye contact? How's the tone of my voice? How are my hand gestures? How's my overall body language? Am I interesting enough to keep the audience listening? And getting feedback from a knowledgeable and preferably impartial third party. What I'm saying here is, as it says at the line below, is don't lean too heavily on the opinions of your family and friends. Why? I know you love them, and I know they love you, but that's the whole point. They may love you so much that they may actually lie to keep from saying anything constructive that they think is going to hurt your feelings. Far better to trust a knowledgeable, preferably professional, who can give you knowledgeable and informed feedback about what you need to reach a professional audience in a professional manner. So I hope you take that advice to heart. It's really very important. And so many people, they go to their friends, they go to their mom, they go to their wives, but don't put them in a conflict of interest. Go with the person whose job it is to tell you what you need to do in order to reach the audience professionally. The other thing you can do, you have to understand, is think like an entertainer a little bit. Now, I am an entertainer, have been one. And in fact, just because I had the opportunity, I put a picture of myself performing there with one of the world's noted guitar players, Tommy Emmanuel. That took place at a jam at the Chet Atkins Society convention in Nashville a few years ago. And Tommy, like anyone who's entertaining or is effective at entertaining audiences, understands that you need a certain amount of speaking anxiety or performance anxiety because it gets the adrenaline going. It gives you a greater ability to stay on top of what's happening with where the audience is. It makes you think faster. It gives you plans of how to change on the fly if you need to, and seeing events happening several steps before they actually get there. So although it may feel a little bit dreadful when you're getting ready for a talk, you may feel like, gee, I just want to roll up and die in a crevice in the floorboards. The fact is, you need that emotional burst to get you at your best. If you were too relaxed, if you didn't have that fight or flight response working for you that gave you faster reactions to what was going on, there's a danger you might actually become too relaxed. you could actually wind up boring the audience. And that defeats your whole purpose, because you want to be there for them. You want to be engaging. You want them to follow you. And so you got to think more like a performer, because as we said in our last episode, last 2 episodes ago, about putting on a show, that when you're speaking, you're a performer. You're on a stage, no matter where it is. And the people you're speaking for are an audience. And audiences expect performers on stages to put on shows. So this is all part of that show idea, that the mission your company is trying to create. Well, that's the show. That's where the audience is. And everybody else you're working with, they're kind of supporting performers. And you're the director, if you want, or the leader. Well, if you take that viewpoint, it helps center you. It gives you a greater sense of what matters. It takes the focus off yourself, because so often we're very, very self-conscious, and that's what makes it hard to speak with confidence. And you just work on making the mission happy. That's what it is. So any kind of confidence or anxiety issues really kind of get put aside if your focus is just squarely on the mission, who essentially you're going to help your audience in the long run, and how they're going to benefit from all the work you're doing. Now, let me tell you a bit about how a client I worked with used these ideas to find his own voice. His name I'm using is Don. That's not his real name. He doesn't want his real name used, but he is a new CEO. And when he took the job, his new role, he struggled to overcome that self-consciousness I was just telling you about. But in this case, it was around making videos. Now, I know most people are really intimidated by the prospect of making videos. I'll explain why right in a moment after I have a little drink here. When you're making a video, it seems as if you're freezing your imperfections for all time, for all the world to look at. And it's just not good enough. And when you have that feeling, you just want to slam on the brakes. And so you do a false start, and then you start again. You go a little ways, you think, this isn't good enough. I don't have my words together. I don't have my ideas together. And you slam on the brakes again. And as a result, a kind of paralysis comes over you, because it gets just too nerve-wracking to try to keep making a video if every time you go, you feel like this isn't good enough. So you'd rather not do it. And that's why, if you were to scour the feeds of people on LinkedIn, I'm sure you would find that probably about 90% of them do not have a video of themselves speaking about their businesses, because they've been through this meat grinder of a process of making the video and feeling this is not good enough. And because you see, all those false starts just erode your confidence. And the more you erode your confidence, the more it's going to affect you generally. So if part of your job is making videos, you're going to be operating at an ever lower level of confidence, because you feel terrible about trying to go through this gut-wrenching process of making the video. So the client, Don, was in this predicament. He feared that freezing his imperfections would make him look ridiculous. And of course, that's one of the reasons why so many opinion polls show that people hate public speaking, because they're afraid of looking ridiculous. And that's what they are afraid is going to happen if they speak in front of audience. And with video, that fear is just amped up exponentially. So how did we help Don? Well, we developed a systematic speech preparation and practice regimen. Because he was so scattered and so fearful about how things would look, he didn't even want to tackle the idea, well, why don't you just create a little system of practice for yourself so you can get a little friendlier with this? You won't feel so intimidated. The making a video won't seem quite so onerous. And we did that. It was a little system about every day he would just do a little bit of a recording on a video. And I said to him, don't judge it, just do it. It only has to be 10 seconds long. And he did that. And then we said, okay, now a little time went by. Let's do one now 20 seconds long. Okay. Did that. We looked at it. He said, I just did a little straighter, try to be a little more square, look a little majestic, because you are trying to project yourself as a leader here. Make sure your voice is engaging, right? You are, look and sound like the leader. Then we extended him to 40 seconds, then a minute. And it went on like this. And every time he realized he could do it, he didn't suffer the collateral damage to his confidence that so often occurs when people are trying to make videos and feel, oh my God, this is terrible. I can't go on with this. We also made videos of Don speaking with me in impromptu speaking exercises. I told him at the beginning, Don, I'm going to give you a topic. You're not going to know what it is. I'll give you a little bit of time to prepare for it. And then you're just going to stand up and speak extemporaneously. You can use little points if you want. That's fine. But essentially, I want you to speak to me as if you were delivering a talk, short as it is, and just do your best. And I'm going to record you. And so we did that. And when he watched the replay of the videos, he developed his ability to learn how to isolate and correct the problems. Maybe it was the eye contact wasn't good. Maybe he wasn't looking at the camera enough. And of course, that's another major issue. People don't forget that you're supposed to look right at that camera there, not over where the image is over here, but right there at the camera. And he also learned how to take those keywords we talked about and how to keep refining them till they worked for him. The way you get keywords, although I always say, do not take a speech or any kind of a comment or whatever it is written out in full and try to memorize it and regurgitate it. That little document can serve use in one way, that you just go through it and try to pull out the 2 or 3 words or a phrase that jog your memory. And then it's easier to speak to those keywords. And you can keep playing with the keywords when you're practicing this talk or comment or speech or whatever it is. If the keyword doesn't feel right, just get rid of it, throw it away. This is how you will feel confident about what you're speaking about. And so when you go out into the milieu of speaking and you feel, boy, this feels really strange to me, you'll be able to fall back on those words like landmarks. They're your home base. You're always safe at home, to use a baseball analogy. And so when Don developed his ability to refine these keyword sections, it made him feel more secure. It made his speaking stronger, and it made his speaking more memorable in terms of the audience. One other thing we did was role playing. I would pretend to be his higher up or a coworker or a colleague in a conversation. And that way he got used by understanding, hey, I do have the ability to make conversation. I'm not no good at it. I'm not good enough. I am good enough at it. And in fact, I'm a lot more competent at it than I think I am. And isn't that always the problem? We so often just picture the worst case scenario, things going so wrong that we don't even want to try. We lose our confidence. But all these things help Don to find his voice. And now here's how I want you to build your own confidence practice so you can feel more confident and more secure whenever it is you're speaking. Now, I don't know if all of you are in the habit of keeping a journal, but I recommend doing that. I mean, you can make notes on the phone or whatever, but I'm going to give you a little tip. This is a tip from a baby boomer, folks, that if you get in the habit of taking a actual physical writing instrument, in this case, I have a mechanical pencil and an actual physical paper notebook like this kind, which you can still get for about 75 cents in a grocery store with big wide lines, and write in it. It's a galvanizing activity because you have a physical connection with your ideas, with your feelings, and use the journal to talk about how you feel when you're speaking in front of the crowd. How do you think you're resonating? How do you think, what didn't work? What worked? And by the way, if you have any comments to make on this in the comments, please feel free. I'm looking to hear from y'all. You know, what kind of negative impact, what kind of negative experiences have you ever had with speaking that you would like to have gotten more control over? Maybe journaling would have given you a chance to work out your ideas. Another thing to do is to be critical of the language you're using. You know, the way we think, the words we use affect the actions we take, and our actions affect our behavior, and our behavior ultimately determines how successful we are in ultimately reaching our goals. So be mindful of when you're using words that are not serving you well, that just maybe undercut your confidence. Watch words like, gee, I'd like to do this. Instead say, I want to do this, or I will do this. Don't say to a client, Well, you could do this if you bought my program. Say, you will achieve these results when you buy my program. Be definite, be powerful, because you'll feel more definite, more powerful, and more confident. Develop a mantra for yourself. Maybe you get nervous. You're comparing yourself with what everybody else is doing. You're thinking, gosh, I'm not as good as they are. Well, instead say to yourself, I'm not here to compete. I'm here to be the best I can be and to excel at being the best I can be. Don't say, I'm in this to compete. Say that I'm here to please me and to do the best I can do and to do a great job being me. Visualize your wins. You know that Olympic athletes, before they go out on the slalom course, for example, they picture every little iota of that course, every little turn, every little dip. They feel themselves going around the posts in the slalom, the gates, if you will, through the gates. They see themselves gliding to the finish line, throwing up a huge shower of snow and jubilation as they hit a record time. That's how you can go about seeing your speaking proposition. See yourself commanding the audience or being at one with the audience, feeling great as you're talking and they're just listening, and you've got a bonding, a meeting of the minds like this, which is the most beautiful feeling you get from speaking. Try to take on an attitude of abundance. There's here enough for everybody. There are great talks now. If the talk I did today didn't quite go the way I want, there's going to be lots of talks, lots of other chances, lots of other opportunities to get my ideas across, to engage an audience, to feel great being at one as I'm speaking with the audience. Surround yourself with great support. I kind of dissed the idea of relying too heavily on your family and friends, and I'm sticking with that. Instead, try to find people who are perhaps in the same place you are now. You can be in a coaching group if you like, where people are all trying to make it, if you will, the way you are, or be around other professionals who seem to share your hopes and dreams. That makes you feel good. Your job to yourself is to keep yourself feeling as good as possible, because when you feel good, it's much easier to feel confident. And when you feel confident, it's much easier to be successful at whatever tasks you're undertaking. Practice, breathe, get exercise. At least go out for a walk every day and practice breathing. You may have heard this before. Practice inhaling, say 6 seconds through your nose. I know I cut it short there just for the purposes of time. Holding it for 6 seconds and then exhaling it, preferably twice as long as you can. So 6, 6, and 12. And do that through your nose if you can. Try to do it where you're in a relaxed place. You can do it lying on your back. And if you pursue a meditation class or you're in a yoga class, bravo. But if you're not getting enough exercise, value how much it has the power to clear the brain, clear you out of negative thoughts, to cleanse you, if you will, and to make you feel fresh every time you're approaching an audience with your proposition as if it were for the first time. So you're bringing fresh language and fresh thoughts to the idea and being utterly inspiring. Get in the habit of practicing. Use those tools on your phone and on your laptop to record yourself. Learn how to make that constructive, positive criticism that's going to help you, or better, get a third party whose viewpoint you trust to help you with it. You know that people only get better by getting the best feedback. The best people in the world got the best feedback in the world too. You can bet on that. Learn how to make small talk. When you're trying to start in a conversation with your audience, you may have a sense that, well, these folks are just getting settled in my audience. They have things on their mind. Maybe they just ate. Maybe they're feeling sleepy. Maybe they just woke up. They're still feeling sleepy. Maybe it's near the end of the day. They're feeling sleepy. You get my point. You want to just learn how to reach them in a kind of casual way at the moment, just to get their brains going. That's the power of small talk. And it can pave the way to have other more meaningful conversations, which of course can lead to sales calls, if you will, and even sales. And then consider getting a professional helper. Look, I'm not just honking my own horn here because I am a coach. I have seen and know the demonstrated benefits you get when you're willing to make the commitment to working with a professional who's been there. They've had the experience. Maybe they've helped dozens of clients who have your problems. It's worth the investment if you want to try to make something of yourself, to get the help you need. Again, nobody in this world ever achieved anything really great without getting help. The media, of which I've been a part of for decades, I admit, has promoted the idea that some of the greatest innovators in the world were kind of like heroes working at night in a solitary fashion. Not true. First of all, there were many other people who came before them who created inventions that their inventions were eventually based on, but also they likely had staffs working with them, helping them do research, helping them do the dirty work, doing the grunt work, doing whatever it took, whether it was cleaning a lab or mopping a floor or going out and helping them find investors. There's a network usually of people who are helping to bring any innovation to light. So don't get misled by the idea that you're going to do it alone. Nobody generally ever accomplished anything great by flying solo. You usually needed a support crew. Ultimately, what I'm saying here is that I know you think, well, gosh, I don't like feeling frightened if I have to assert myself with confidence in business or any kind of a speech, or even in my bridge club, if you will, or my bowling league, if you're still bowling, or in my breakfast club with people where we go and we hang out at Dunkin' Donuts every morning for an hour and chat. You've got to trust the process. You got to let yourself, it's so important that if you're feeling feelings of fear, that you allow yourself to feel them. Here's why. Part of the process of learning to grow is by getting used to it. You say, yeah, I've been afraid before. It's not going to kill me. It's not going to kill me. And I've certainly faced tougher challenges in my life than this. So you got to get used to it. And then you have to plan on its power to help you to be at your best. As I said, when you feel that kind of performance anxiety, it gets you working at a higher level. Your brain works faster. Your relationship with the audience gets more intense and more in the moment. And that's great. If you can relate to that audience in the moment, they're going to think you're the greatest speaker who ever lived, because great speaking is a conversation. It should feel like a dialogue, even if at that moment you don't exactly want them to be talking to you, but you want them to feel as if they were just part of this ongoing back and forth, a two-way, if you will, which is essentially a very social activity, even as you're giving them knowledge they need to know. One moment. Thank you for that. Just a little bit of a cough. And you want to accept that these feelings, feeling these feelings, is going to help you deal with what it's like when you get up and step in front of a crowd, whether it's an in-person audience or whether it's just the folks you're speaking to over Zoom, you know, in that gallery. It could be 24 people or more, and people you don't even see beyond that gallery. You need extra confidence to reach those people on Zoom because you don't know what kind of distractions they might be dealing with at their end. Could be dogs barking, kids running into camera view, could be lawnmowers going. This is something I have in my neighborhood a lot. They could even have some sort of a domestic problem, a water issue, a pipe break, something. You don't know what's going on. And you need to keep things moving. You need to be confident. You need to be dynamic. And learning how to accept those feelings of dread will make you understand, hey, this is all just part of the powerful process of learning how to be an engaging speaker, because my power to engage the audience comes from those very feelings. And it also helps you manage your anxiety. So it's win, 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 win all around. Now, when we talk about trusting the process, that's exactly what Warren Buffett did. And I'm sure you're aware that Warren Buffett is one of the most important investors in American history, or maybe in global history. He's not only the CEO of Berkshire Hathaway, but whenever he makes an investment of some kind, they're all listening. Oh, Warren Buffett spoke. And you may not know this, but when he was in college, he suffered from acute speaking anxiety. And that's why today, if you were to visit his office in Omaha, Nebraska, the only piece of paper you'd see on his wall, despite this is a man who has business degrees, the only diploma on his wall is a certificate from a public speaking course he took years ago, because he said it was the most important thing that he ever did. And this is one reason why Warren Buffett himself has said that public speaking can increase your own career value by as much as 50%. 50%. And it's worth listening to him because he practices what he preaches. His net worth, as of latest, according to the latest estimates, has been put at over $100 billion US dollars, 100 billion. So Warren Buffett is an example of what you can do when you trust the process of learning to speak. You're willing to go through a little bit of pain, perhaps, but you know that the benefits you're going to go in the long run are going to so far exceed whatever little inconvenience or even a little bit of discomfort you had to feel. And you can get great benefits just like that if you're working with great people and doing all the things we're talking about here today. Now, I want to remind you one more time, you'll get a head start on doing that. I recommend strongly that you take advantage of this little gift I'm giving you. It's the key to learning how to make audiences take action. And to get it, you just have to go on to LinkedIn and go to the comments section, and you'll see down there, it'll say something like how to make audiences take action. And you just got to click on that link, and it will take you to a little 4-step framework, 4 steps on how to speak and make audiences take action, you following the 4 phases of a great speech. So I hope you do that. It really will benefit you. And assuming there's no questions, we're going to wrap it up. I want to thank you all for being with us here again today. We'll broadcast again next Tuesday, November 29th at 2 p.m. And at that time, the topic will be giving the audience a reason to care. This is based on that principle in my book, which shows you why you can be speaking and going on and on and on and on. At some point, the audience might think, okay, yeah, but why am I supposed to know this? This will show you how you do that, citing some very famous examples, including Steve Jobs unveiling the iPod for the first time in 2000 or 2001. Okay, that's it. I don't see any more questions. So I'm going to thank you all for joining me today. It's been a pleasure having you with me here. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'd like to deal with any more questions you might have there in a DM. And I'll see you again soon. Take care. Bye now.